Welcome to Spotlight on Bourne. I'm Linda Zuern, your host, and today I have as my guest Sharon Mendes. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity again. This is great.
Well, Sharon, you are a retired nurse, but also an author, and a local author. You live in Pocasset. So we'd like to just go through some of your books today and talk about, what it's like to be an author. But before we do that, if you could just give us a little bit of your background, like what you used to do before, how you got into writing.
Okay. Since I was little, I can never remember a day when I didn't love horses. Was the first thing. And I wanted to be a writer. That was my goal growing up in high school. And I started working as a CNA at the local hospital and became a nurse. So that was for 30 years. I worked as a nurse and kind of put the writing on hold and always wrote the stories in my head but never did anything with it. And then when I retired, I decided to start, doing books for children, which is my first love. And that's how I kind of got started. About 6 years ago, I started writing.
And have you always had horses, or?
Yeah, I've had horses quite many years, probably over 25 years now. So long time.
And you have won medals or awards for, do you want to talk about that, for the writing?
Well, we started about 20 years ago. My husband and daughter and I started taking lessons to become barrel racers, which is amateur rodeo.
Oh.
And that got really exciting, and so we probably showed for 10 years, about 6 months out of the year, every weekend. We were diehards, and so we won some trophies and some ribbons and jackets and belt buckles over the years. And you figure if you do something for 6 months, you're bound to win something.
And you do have one of your trophies here with us.
I brought one of my daughter's trophies.
Okay, she rides as well.
She doesn't ride as much. She's a nurse now too, and she's not still a child like her mom, still riding horses,
And we have a ribbon here.
This is a ribbon that I got from the Barnstable County Fair. Cape Cod Rough Riders is one of the organizations that we ride with still.
And you're associated with 4-H?
Yes, we have sponsored, I ran a 4-H club for many years while my daughter was younger, and now we sponsor it, and it is now led by Lauralee Marquez, who also lives in Pocasset, and she has her horse, her daughter's horse, Star, is at our barn, and so we still have the 4-H kids coming and participating, but she runs the club, and that's great for me. I don't have to do it anymore.
So you do have a little farm, and I've been to your farm, and we did a show about 1.5 years ago, and we did
Can't believe it's that long already.
I know, a little video of your horse and the barn and everything.
I remember how cold it was, and you were behind the camera, not moving, and I was moving. So
it was wonderful.
You did great.
But that was a lot of fun, just to see your horse in the barn and everything. And you still have that now, so when you're doing your writing, you take some of the animals and your characters
absolutely. I have a little hammock out there and a picnic table, and that's where kind of we gather around, pull some chairs up at the end of the day, and the kids come over and help with the barn from the 4-H club. And the animals interact with one another. They don't speak the English language or a language that humans speak, but they interact all day long. They have this language between them. Birds and horses communicate, and cats and dogs. It's just amazing. So I just sit there and get all my material right from the hammock. It's great.
I did meet your dog for a few seconds. So he's also in one of your books. So last time I talked to you, you had just started writing, and you had one book that was being published. So in 1.5 years, you've done 3 more. That's quite ambitious.
Yeah. The first book was difficult because I had to find an illustrator, I had to find a publisher, an editor, and then once that's all in place, then it's easier to get things published more quickly. So.
And your first book was Bravo.
My first book,
Glee.
you want me to hold it up?
Sure.
It is
We
Bravo
may
and
have a
Glee.
picture.
Yeah. And the last time, that way? The last time I was here, I actually read the book. And that book is my house and my farm as an artist would see it. It was illustrated by Marguerite Miller from Mashpee. And she's done several really good books. And then we worked on our second.
And you have the second one with you also today, and you'd like to read that one?
I'd love to read that one.
Okay, and it's Who is Bella?
Who is Bella? Yep.
Okay.
So I will read to you. And
Is this based on your dog?
Who is Bella is one of our pointers, and we have hunting dogs, and they're English pointers and German short-haired pointers. But interestingly enough, Bella has a lot of spots, and my English short hair has a lot of spots. So they kind of look like twins, which was interesting. So who is Bella? And this is in memory of my mother-in-law, Laura Mendes, and my mother, Lee White. And they were my inspiration to create Lauralee Farm. So that's where the name of our farm came. I opened my eyes. The sun was shining. The birds were singing. I said good morning to the new day. I am a puppy. I'm brown and white, and I have lots of spots. I ate my breakfast, and then I played with my brother and sister. A smiling lady walked to my kennel. She asked me, "Would you like to go home with me, Bella?" I thought to myself, who is Bella? Her name is Miss Sharon. She has a kind voice, and she lives on Cape Cod at Lauralee Farm. That sounded like fun, so I got in the car and off we went. At the farm, I saw a barn cat. He said, "Hello, Bella. My name is Kippy." Again, I thought, who is Bella? I want you to meet my best friend, Porky. Porky came to the door of his stall and said, "Hi, Bella, welcome to the farm." And the horse gave me a kiss. I kept thinking, who is Bella? One by one, I met all of the animals at the farm. Then I took a nap with my new best friend, Shorty. He looks just like me. That night I ate dinner with my new family, and then I went to bed. My new bed is warm and cozy, and I fell fast asleep. Good night to all my new friends and family. In the morning, Shorty and I took a walk around the farm. On the fence was a squirrel. He said to me, "What is your name, puppy?" I told him, "Call me Bella. Everyone else does." It was then that I knew the answer to my question, who is Bella? It is me. Bella is my brand new name.
Oh.
And here's a picture of our Bella. There she is.
Oh, that's a wonderful story.
Thank you.
And you said this was a story for the kindergarten level?
It's a kindergarten level. It's one that is nice to read to younger kids, you know, that aren't in kindergarten yet. Because a lot of us get dogs and kittens when they're little, and we bring them into a home, which is, there's a lot for them to take in. And Bella, I could actually, you know, hear her wheels turning in her head, like, why are you calling me Bella? She had no idea who she was, you know. And then in a few weeks' time, she finally started responding to her name. So
you must have a wonderful relationship with all of your animals and pets and the horses and everything, to sort of get into their minds or characters, or know how they would feel or what they might say if they could speak English.
Well, they're interesting, as I'm sure many horse owners and pet owners alike will understand this, is that they all are individual. Just like you and me, they have their good days and their bad days. When animals first come to the farm, particularly a horse comes into a barn, They're very nervous. I mean, they're 1,000 pounds, but they're just as scared as, you know, a butterfly would be, you know? And so they, it takes time to adjust, you know. And I did make a note in the book to the children that, you know, when you get a new pet, use a lot of patience, a lot of time, you know, to make that pet a great, you know, companion.
And the pictures are wonderful. Marguerite.
Marguerite also did the pictures. Yeah.
Very, very nice. And then you did your third book. Could you have a copy of that as well? Crossing Lauralee Farm.
My third book is Crossing Lauralee Farm. And this is a picture book, and I've done all the photographs in the book.
Oh, my goodness.
So I didn't need an illustrator, which was kind of interesting, different. And this book, we have snapping turtles that come across. We have a swamp in Lauralee Farm, and then there's the paddock, and then across the road is Picture Lake. I'm sure many of you are familiar in swimming Picture Lake over the years. And the snapping turtles actually stop traffic because they come from my farm across the road. They have to cross the road to get to the lake to lay their eggs. And it is a hoot. I mean, people are stopped and they get, you know, a shovel and they try to help the turtle across, you know. So that's how this story came to be.
Oh, that's great. I actually have a snapping turtle that comes from the pond up to the front of my yard to lay its eggs. And it does that every year in different places. But
it's interesting. So if they wind up in the middle of the horse paddock, of course the horses are so curious and they try to follow behind them. And one year I had a young horse that stepped on a turtle. So I was a wreck. I thought, oh my goodness, you know, maybe he hurt the turtle. And the next year she came through with she had a little piece of broken shell and she was fine.
She never snapped at the horse?
Oh, they're vicious.
Oh, I was going to say.
The character of the turtle is not quite as bad, but they will bite the horses and they will bite you if you try to get anywhere close to them. So.
Yeah, I've seen them hiss.
And they can get to be very, very big, you know, like 85 pounds, you know.
So would you like to read a little bit of this book as well?
Sure, we'll do
Maybe a few chapters.
Couple of chapters. This book, Crossing Lauralee Farm, is about a 3rd to 4th grade reading level.
Okay. Some
Some of my kid friends have read the book to me and they're a little younger, but I think it kind of goes to, you know, 4th or 5th grade is still, hopefully they're interested. It's a fantasy about the animal family and how they do interact with one another. And it is based on some actual events that I have done. And chapter 1, before I start, I just want to mention that I brought my 2 little replicas of my kitties. They are Gray Gray and Midnight, and we've had them for years. They were a rescue cat brothers, and they were together at the shelter for a long time because they loved the cats and didn't want to part with them. So we were very lucky to get them.
Are they in your story as well?
They are the main characters in the story.
Okay.
So chapter 1 is a tale of 2 brothers. Gray Gray and Midnight saw a couple of mice scurrying between the horse stalls. Sometimes they startled their horse friends. They both sighed loudly. Oh my, what are we going to do? Gray Gray asked his brother. We simply cannot chase those mice out of the barn. I know, Midnight gasped. They just laugh at us when we try. Let's face it, Gray Gray cried, we're just a couple of slowpokes. Well, we may be slow, but we are great barn cats, Gray Gray said. You know that we make everyone who comes to the farm feel so welcome. That's true, and then Midnight yawned. Let's take a nap so we can sleep on it and figure out what to do. That sounds like a plan. And with that, Gray Gray promptly dozed off. The warmth of the sun was a wake-up call for a large 50-pound snapping turtle named Miss Daisy. Her home is a nest in the swamp behind Lauralee Farm. Miss Daisy looked around and stretched her long neck out from her massive shell. Let me start off this beautiful spring day with a good breakfast, she thought. She made a huge bowl of plant and algae salad, topped off with a few of her favorite bugs. So yummy in my tummy, she said and smiled. And then she frowned as she remembered her difficult voyage. Every spring, Miss Daisy must travel 200 yards from the swamp, across the farm's paddock where the horses run and play, to the sandy beach on Picture Lake. There she lays her eggs to start her new family. She thought out loud, "Who's going to help me cross the paddock this year? I sure hope my Porky is still there." Porky, a palomino, was one of Miss Daisy's best friends, and over the years she has made many friends of the animals on Lauralee Farm. Miss Daisy had been buried in the mud for months, and she looked more like a large rock than a turtle. So she soaked herself clean in some water and got ready for her trip. Slowly and with a lot of effort, Miss Daisy emerged from the safety of the swamp and headed for the fence that surrounded the paddock. It's a sign, Chapter 3. Gray woke to the sound of hoofbeats. It was springtime and the horses finally got to go outside all day. Spring had arrived and bucks and kicks shot in the air. The meadow grass was starting to shoot up through the muddy earth. The horses nibbled at it. To them, it was just like eating candy. Midnight opened his eyes, waking from a dream about the mouse problem. He sat down and told his brother, "I know what we can do. Let's make a sign. That way we will be able to hire a fast cat for the job." "All right, let's get started," Gray said. And with that, all morning, the brothers worked on the sign. And then they put it on the roadside. I don't know if you can see it. Put it on the roadside to see if any passing cats would notice. Miss Daisy peered through the fence, and the horses were galloping all around, their manes and tails dancing in the wind. She spotted the old palomino munching on some meadow grass. "Porky," she called. "Hello, my old friend." Porky's head shot up at the sound of her familiar voice. He nickered and then trotted over to the fence. He lowered his big head and sniffed gently with his soft muzzle. "Miss Daisy, it is so good to see you again." Still majestic in his old age, Porky's golden color glistened in the morning sun. His flaxen-colored mane and tail looked just like corn silk floating in the wind. "Porky, can you help me across the paddock again this year?" He perked up and said, "Why, of course I can. You and I make a great team." Then they both heard a horse galloping towards them from across the meadow. Star is a young, beautiful horse, tall and flashy. He's a black and white paint. With the curiosity of a cat, he saw the turtle and snorted at the ground. Miss Daisy was scared, so she snapped at him. "It's okay, Star," Porky explained. "She will not hurt you. She just wants to cross the farm and go into the lake." Star relaxed a bit and said, "Oh, I love the lake, especially when I get to swim." Then he took off in a furious gallop. Miss Daisy pushed herself under the fence and was ready to begin. "Let's go, Porky!" And off they went. It took a long time through the high meadow grass and mud for Miss Daisy to cross the paddock. Porky stayed close by her, herding the other horses away to keep them at a safe distance. Just then, a large and lanky doggy
That's a good photograph.
came into the paddock. He saw Miss Daisy was crossing. Carefully, he started to crouch behind her and take a sniff. She had the familiar smell of the swamp he sometimes explored. Porky quickly spoke up. "This is my best friend, Sonny. He'd like to help us too." And with that said, Miss Daisy relaxed and Sonny got in step behind her. Using her powerful hind legs, Miss Daisy proceeded step by step. When she finally reached the other side of the fence, she and Porky gave a big sigh of relief. "Thank you, Porky, my dear friend. What a victory today has been. And thank you, Sonny. You were a big help also." When Miss Daisy approached the road, she looked to the left and then to the right before starting across. To her left, a local farmer named Mr. John came down the street in a green tractor. To the right, a neighbor, Lady Lauralee, approached her in a horse-drawn carriage with a big load of hay. The sound of the horse's hooves striking the road made Miss Daisy panic. She stopped in her tracks and then got discouraged. "Now what am I going to do?" she asked aloud. It was then she noticed Gray and Midnight sitting under a sign. "What are you boys doing?" she asked, and they both turned to face her. "Oh, hi, Miss Daisy, Gray Gray yelled. How's your trip so far? Miss Daisy dropped her head to the ground. It's not looking good for me to cross today. There's just too much traffic. Having said that, tears welled up in her little eyes. Gray Gray whispered to Midnight in his ear, and they both smiled instantly. We will make you a sign, they said together, and once again they went to work. They brought the sign over to Miss Daisy.
It says Turtle Crossing.
And it says Turtle Crossing.
No.
They posted it beside the road, and then all the traffic came to an abrupt halt, and they finally got her to cross the road. When she got to the other side, Gray Gray and Midnight did a little victory dance, clapping and saying, "Way to go, Miss Daisy." Do you want me to go? Keep going?
We probably have a few more minutes
Okay.
to do that if you'd like.
All right. I don't want to give you kids all the answers today. I want you to read the book and find out what happens to
Right.
Miss Daisy. The beach sand was warm and inviting to Miss Daisy's feet. She quickly dove into the lake and swam around and around underwater. She was searching for the perfect spot to raise her family. After about 20 minutes, she found a great place. She dug a deep nest and carefully laid her eggs. Soon the young turtles would crack out of their shell to begin their new lives. After helping Miss Daisy, Gray Gray and Midnight had completely forgotten about their sign, so they hurried back to sit underneath it once again. And to their surprise, there was a cat waiting for them. He was black, orange, and white. He waved at them and said, "Hello, my name is Zippy." Midnight perked up. "Can you chase mice out of the barn?" "Why, of course," Zippy said with a huge smile. "In fact, I am the fastest cat around here, and I can start right away." With that said, he raced swiftly into the barn and disappeared. I'm actually on the last chapter. Do you want me to finish? Do we have time?
Sure, we do, if you'd like to
Okay,
do
guys,
that.
now you know what happens.
Oh.
A Job Well Done is the last chapter. After the night crept in, a full moon rose in the sky. The coyotes began howling at it. Barn owls hooted while hiding in the darkness. The moon illuminated the sand pebbles on the beach. The long meadow grass looked like it was painted silver from the moon's reflection. It was a perfect ending to a perfect day. Miss Daisy was tired, but she had accomplished so much this day. Soon she fell asleep, covered in the warm, soft sand. Porky was tired and laid down in the soft pine shavings in his stall. He was happy knowing that he had kept Miss Daisy safe for another crossing. He closed his big brown eyes and fell asleep. Zippy was tired, but he was glad he found a new job. He was happy he found a comfortable place to sleep on Porky's soft winter blanket. Gray Gray and Midnight were very, very tired. They had worked hard all day, and yet they were the happiest brothers in the world. They were happy they'd helped Miss Daisy cross the road, and they were happy that they hired a fast cat to do their job. Zippy will be a great addition to the Lauralee farm family. They got comfortable on a large bale of hay and looked out the barn door at the full moon. To them, all was well with the world. Gray Gray put his arm around his brother and whispered goodnight. Midnight didn't hear him. He was already asleep.
Oh, what a nice picture.
They really did sleep like that.
Oh.
Funny. So that's it. I don't know how well these pictures come up, but this is Star after his swim. They lay down on the soft sand and they take a little rest. And the horses do really love to swim. It's funny. And this is a picture of Porky and Star leaving the lake to come back to our house across the street. And then this is a picture of Porky. How he looks at us every morning.
Oh.
And that's the end.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, as I
You're
was
welcome.
listening to the story, it's so wonderful to be able to hear the author read the story, because we know exactly what you stressed or how you felt or how the character feels. Sometimes when you read a story, you put your own interpretation into it. But listening to you, then, you know, and the people who watch the TV show will know exactly you know, what things excited you and how you felt about things. And,
It's
and what
very
to
exciting
stress.
to see the first one come across, and they usually I would say probably 3 or 4 of them every year come. So, you know, we kind of wait, oh, there's a turtle in the yard. You know, everybody gets excited. That's really fun.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh,
and you
you're
also
very
are writing
welcome.
another one. We just have about 5 minutes left, but if you'd like to just mention your next book that's coming out.
My next book, I think I do have a picture of it, is Ryan, A Horse's Tale. And it's the story of, based on, again, actual events. Some of the things in the story were true. It's a fictional story about his life, as I have been able to, you know, glean information from different people that have owned him. So.
And what reading level would that be?
Ryan is the largest text that I've attempted so far. It's probably a young adult. Kids have read it to me in the 3rd and 4th grade, no problem. Adults like it too, so it's just kind of a good, you know, tale. You know, bittersweet moments in it, but it's really.
And that one is illustrated by?
By me, pictures again.
Oh, it is,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I thought when we were talking you said there was another, Marguerite's daughter was also doing some work.
Marguerite's daughter is actually working on my 5th book, which will be out in 2014, but probably towards the middle or the end of the year.
Oh, so you already have 2 coming out.
Yeah, Ryan will be out in January, and then Porky's book will be out whenever, because it takes a long time to do the illustrations. They, you know, take longer, I think, than it does for me to write the books. So,
I know when you first started, it was just a brand new endeavor for you, and you had to learn how to get things published, and so you've just come so far in a year and a half or 2 years.
Yeah.
And now you're just writing one right after the other. So
I'll tell you, the easy part for those of us who like to write, if you're interested in becoming an author, is you have Google, you have the internet, the highway of information highway. So it's easier to get in touch with people now, locally, and you know, my publisher is Summerlin Publishing, and they're in California. And my editor is actually in Florida. Oh. So the internet, you know, gives us that.
So we have a couple of minutes left. If you'd just like to give an email address and maybe places where people could get your books, or if they want to contact you.
The easiest way right now, Bravo and Glee is the only hard copy book that I've done so far. Bella and Crossing are both on ebooks. So if you have a Kindle or a Nook or an iPad, you can just Google either the titles or my name and it'll come up, and then you can go on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, and it kind of shows you, pops up, you know, what to do from there. And they're $9.99 a piece to download. If you want a hard copy of Bravo, you can always call me or go on my Facebook or Twitter, and then we can set up a time for you to come to the farm if you want a personal copy and if you want to meet the horses. And we do that quite often. That's a lot of fun.
Well, that's very nice of you to do that. And you seem to enjoy that. So that's, and did you have an email address as well?
Yes, it's Shawnee, SHAWNEE0127
Okay. And your last name, just for, it's Sharon, M-E-N-D-E-S. So if people want to Google it.
Sharon Lee Mendes and you'll get your information. I think from the Google, you can get right on my Facebook and leave me a message. So, and Twitter, of course.
Well, thank you so much for being here today.
Welcome.
It was very enjoyable.
I really appreciate your time and this moment.
Thank you.